Hello, welcome to the cloud-based General Ledger product demonstration. The General Ledger is tightly integrated with the other Assist Cloud modules such as utility billing, accounts payable, cash receipts, and it's also tightly integrated with ADP's payroll, so no more journal entries. And it's a solution that is a true cloud-based system. In other words, you don't need any special hardware to connect to your database. You just need to be able to get to an internet connection. And it's very affordable. With the system, you pay a monthly fee, and that includes storage, use, and support. So there's no long-term contracts. So let's get started. I've already logged on to the database, so it's a secure login. And what I thought we would do first is take a look at the menu structure. The way we have our menu set up, they're across the top. So you can very quickly go to where you would do journal entries. We have a section here on budgeting, and I'll talk about that. We also have a section for reports, your inquiries, and opening and closing the year. Now, with the General Ledger, it is a true fund accounting system, so you're able to track all your funds in one database. I know a lot of our prospects that we talk to, they use QuickBooks or Peachtree, and it's designed more for a small business, and they're having to set up different companies. That's totally different with our solution, one integrated database that's designed for true fund accounting. So let's go ahead and take a look at where you would do a journal entry. Now, if you notice, on the left-hand side, I can do several different things. I can add a new journal entry. I can modify an existing one. I can search, or I can post these. I can also do an inquiry. So let's take a look at a batch of journal entries that I've already created. If I want to take a look at these or make some changes, I'm going to go down here and modify this existing one. Couple of key things here. As I mentioned, it's a true fund accounting system. This is where you're going to do your journal entries, and we handle all the different types. So you could be doing a journal entry or recording revenue. All of those different activities happen here. With our system, it's a true date-driven system. In other words, I can post to any period. I can also lock it down where I can't post to that period. Another key thing is debits and credits are going to have to equal. We're not going to let you get out of balance. So this is where you would set up your journal entries. We also handle recurring entries, and you can define different types of recurring entries. There'll simply be a drop-down list on all those entries that you do all the time, and this is where it defaults the accounts, and you can just make the adjustments on the dollar amount. So you can very easily enter journal entries, or you can set up recurring ones, those ones you do all the time. So like I said, that's where you handle the journal entries. As I mentioned earlier, transactions coming in from payables, from utility billing or cash receipts, or even payroll through ADP, it's going to create their own journal entries. You don't have to do that. It's totally integrated. Another key aspect of the General Ledger is creating your budget. There's several different options on initiating your budget, keying in your budget figures. The key is once you get your budget into the system, we're going to track it. So you're going to be able to have your budget figures for all your accounts, and when you run your financials, you're going to see that budget comparison. We also support the ability to do revisions to your budget. Let's say in the middle of the year you need to make a change. You're going to be able to track what the change is, why you did it, and we're going to have reports that are going to show you those changes. So like I said, if you do need to make mid-year budget revisions, we do track them. When we get into the financial reports, you can even decide, do I want to see the original budget or the revised budget? Now the key is on the reporting. As I mentioned earlier, this is a true fund accounting. So we'll take a look at some of the examples on the reports. Once again, I can run this for any period. So if you've been using the system 10 years, you're going to be able to go back and run those reports. When you do select your reports, there's a series of questions. In other words, the first and probably the most important question is, what would you like to run this trial balance for? The way I've got my account structure set up is I've got fund, department, and then the actual account. So with our reporting, you're able to slice out, for instance, in this example, I'm going to pull out just the general fund, or maybe I want to do it by department and pull it out for the police department. So if this is all I need, I can just hit print, and it's actually going to create a PDF, print it to the screen, but I was able to pull this for one fund, once again, all in one integrated database. And as I mentioned, we do keep unlimited history. On the reports, you can print them, you can email them. Now, let's go back and let's take a look at some other reports that we have available. For instance, you can print out the general ledger. Once again, what period? You can also do a range. So for instance, if I want to do just the general fund, I can pull that out, or department, or maybe just one particular account. So it's really easy to run this report for any segment in your chart of accounts. So here it is. I went ahead and pulled it by fund, so I've got that by line item. Now, probably one of the most important reports that you're going to have for your board meeting, and that's going to be the statement of revenues and expenditures. Once again, I'm probably going to want to, do I want to do it for the original budget or the revised budget? Do I want to have a comparison? Once again, I can slice this out by my chart. So if I want to do just fund, just department, or a range of account numbers, I can even specify, do I want to see just revenue or expenditures? I'm going to go ahead and print this by the general fund. And once again, if I leave it blank, it's going to sort by all funds. But on this particular report, you're going to see revenue and expenditures. And on the far right-hand side, you're going to be able to see the remaining budget percentage. So once you create your budget, the software is going to help you manage to that budget. And that's really one of the key differences with a true fund accounting system. And so once you create your budget, you're going to be able to track that very easily. Other reports we have, you can print out an annual budget report. We even have a balance sheet, once again, that you can pull by fund, by period, and pull out just the information that you want to see in one database. So other reports, as I mentioned, we also have an encumbrance trial balance and the annual budget report. So those are all available to run at any point, unlimited history. It's easy to pull it out. Now, a couple of inquiries. One is you might want to look at the balance. And if you notice here, I can pick any year and I can search any account number. And the thing is, what do I know about the account number? So if I'm looking for a certain type or I know part of the description, I can narrow the search. So let's say, for instance, I want to look at this account for building permits. So I can see here by period, and a couple of key things here. I've set up my system so that I've got a period 0 so I can see beginning balances. I've also set up a period 13 where I do just adjusting entries, so I can see those as well. Now, the way my fiscal year, I've got the first month being July, you totally define that in the setup. On this example, I can see debits, credits, if there are any purchase orders, and I can come over here and drill down and get the detail. I can see here there was one transaction. It was a journal entry that was created, and if I want to select it, I can see the detail. So you're able to drill down and get to the detail on any question for any account. So that's one of the inquiries. Another one we have is one that's looking at the budget. Once again, I don't know the account number. I can further refine this. And if I want to come here and let's say I want to look at this rent, one of my revenue accounts, I can see here on the far left-hand side, if I've created the budget, how it's doing in comparison, the actual, any POs, and the balance. But I can drill down and get the detail. I can see that there were 2 transactions, and I can select any one of these and get to the detail. So I can see here the transaction, it was a receipt, it was a journal entry that I created, but once again, I'm able to get to that detail. So it's very simple to track all your funds, unlimited history. It's a true fund accounting. And most importantly, if you're using our utility billing, all those entries get created, and we'll look at accounts payable later on. A couple of things. One thing that I didn't mention, it's really a key feature, is with our solution, you can open a fiscal year and close a fiscal year as many times as you need to. So an example is, let's say your year ends June 30th. July 5th, you want to close the year. Go ahead and run the option to close the year. You can also very easily, when the auditors come on site, reopen that year, do the adjusting entries, and carry it forward. So we've got the open close for year and month. It's as easy as a menu option. So that's going to save you a lot of time. You can go ahead and create your financials and then have the adjusting entries entered in later on. So very simple. Now the setup. This is where you're going to define, your chart of accounts. How do you want the system to work? So you can define things like, do you want the description to print when you do a journal entry? How do you want to avoid it or remove it for deleted ones? So do you want to do due tos and due froms? So this is all, you're going to have a series of questions on how do you want the system to be set up. So very simple. We also have the ability to, together with you, get everything set up. It's called a Go Live service, and we're actually there with you, setting up the tables, teaching you how to use it until you're live. So it is an easy process, and we want you as live as quickly as you want to get set up. So once again, it is a cloud solution. You're able to access your database from any internet browser. You pay a monthly fee, which includes using the software, support, all the updates, us backing it up, and there's no long-term contracts. Thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, please give us a call.